Hello, Commerce 329. This is Alvin speaking. I'm joined by Sam, Janet, Julia, and Phoebe, and we will be presenting our ideas on decision making. We'll give a brief introduction on the topic, followed by our research on a few different companies. So, decision making governs all organizations in sentient life, and without it, the only thing that remains is inaction. Now, the six-step rational model is great on an individual scale. We each use it intuitively without ever even considering it. But when we're talking about multi-billion-dollar enterprises with trillions in market cap, the six-step rational model starts to look a bit anemic, so most companies have decided to supplement it, to add elements that make the model more powerful. Another thing is that autonomy and the ability to make our own choices is correlated with engagement and personal well-being. So any structure that even partially removes free choice is going to have some compelling psychological implications. So, Amazon. We all know what it is. It's the largest e-commerce platform in the world, and it's become so powerful that for a lot of us, especially now with COVID, depend on it for our basic goods. It's the third largest company on the planet by market cap, and with close to 1 million employees with arguably the most sophisticated supply chain in the world, decision making can get pretty tough. Now, we've all read the textbook, I assume, so we all know about Hertzberg and the ethical climate theory, and they all talk about how it's just so great to build positive environments, support your employees emotionally, and how all of that will increase job satisfaction, productivity, or work-life balance. Well, Jeff Bezos took a look at that and said, wow, that's great. I'm going to do the opposite. You have to understand that Amazon's guiding principle is to create more value for the customer. They are obsessed with this and go about it in a very Machiavellian way. Employees here are encouraged to tear down each other's ideas, even at the expense of social cohesion. They are a metrics-obsessed culture, and the thinking is that if your idea can't stand up to everyone's criticism, then it's probably not that good. Decisions are made during weekly meetings where employees will bring up proposals, which must be written in prose. Each employee's report is read and followed with a barrage of questions. Every detail is painstakingly scrutinized, and employees engage in rigorous debates to find any flaws. At the end, if what the employee is proposing holds up to such intense and meticulous scrutiny, then the idea turns to action. These reports have to be backed up by evidence and statistics, or they will be completely destroyed in these meetings. Now, despite all this craziness, there's a strong organizational culture going on here. Employees know exactly what to expect. They understand that they must challenge all of their colleagues' ideas, and they understand that the same thing will happen to them. Obviously, communication must be very clear. There's absolutely no room for ambiguity because that just gets detected instantly. Also, groupthink is almost impossible when everyone is actively trying to make each other look bad by default. Now, paradoxically, role conflict is actually embedded within the roles of actual employees. They are supposed to make things harder for each other so that only the best ideas survive. So, how do we make things better? Well, unfortunately, this system is deeply rooted in Amazon's culture, so attempting a friendly approach like Zappos or Google would just be a lost cause. Instead, it might help to just be brutally honest with a candidate about how intense and combative the environment is. By being transparent with employees, it'll give them the information they need to make their own rational decisions as to whether or not this job is worth the psycho-emotional trauma. This could help reduce their 109% turnover rate. Yes, you heard that correctly, thus creating more value for the customers by lowering the cost of hiring new employees.
Hi, my name is Sam and I'll be talking to you about Google. Google's success started in 1995 out of a Stanford dorm by Larry Page and Sergey Brin and grew into the successful company we know it to be today. With a market value of over $1 trillion as of early 2020 from its many internet-related products and services, it's hard to deny that they have established an important role in our lives. The self-determination theory suggests that individuals who have fulfilled their inner needs of autonomy, connection, and competency will be intrinsically motivated. Not only did Google recognize the importance of this, but they also recognize a correlation between intrinsic motivation and productivity. Google implemented their decision-making structure to reflect this and tied it to their culture. They base their workplace culture around decentralized collaborative power, meaning that decision-making takes place throughout each level of the company with multiple people collaborating to make each decision. Further, they emphasize a flat hierarchy, meaning that each team is given more free rein, creating a positive work environment. This opposes Amazon, which Alvin just discussed, where employees are heavily restricted. Google's structure fulfills the inner needs of their engineers, allowing for intrinsic motivation and therefore productivity. Just like Amazon, Google emphasizes data analysis in decision-making, reflected through a common phrase at Google: if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Eric Schmidt, Google's former CEO, states that data analysis is effective because it neutralizes emotional and personal manipulation, creating a safe space for individuals to share their thoughts. This allows decision-making to be effectively distributed across Google's hierarchy and is supported by the finding that data analysis improves decisions by 3 times. At Google, this distribution means that higher management plays less of a role in daily decision-making and more in facets that influence the whole corporation, such as strategy, product launches, sales, business deals, public policy, and department efficiency. While this leaves a small degree of decision-making to the engineers, it's still unusual in the tech industry due to how easily a decision can influence a product's success, no matter how small the decision is. At Google, these decisions involve the respective projects where each team has the power to decide what they want to maintain, enhance, and develop. This shapes engineers to be intrinsically motivated, which allows them to be satisfied in their jobs and therefore be productive, as I stated before. Further, individuals who are productive are more likely to dream up innovative ideas, allowing for Google to utilize these to create the groundwork for their next successful products, generating profits. Over 86% of employees are very satisfied with their jobs at Google, where much of this can be attributed to how unrestricted they are in their jobs. This contrasts with companies like Amazon and Apple, who have cutthroat workplace environments due to the crackdown on employees. At Amazon, only 63% would recommend working there to a friend, while at Google 91% would, showing what a big difference a positive and encouraging environment can make. Due to the fact that power is so distributed, there are often decision-making gaps between each level of the organization. One former engineer emphasized how their lives would revolve around management that didn't even know them in respect to promotions and projects. This disheartened many engineers to the point where they felt that they had to resort to immoral actions to gain their attention. To maximize the effectiveness of this structure, it's best to implement better communication channels and blended level workplace and teams, allowing engineers to feel more corporately involved as their satisfaction and productivity majorly influences Google's success.
Hi, I'm Janet. Here I'll introduce Zappos, a company that is famous for its special decision-making policy known as Holacracy. Zappos was founded in 1999 and is known for being the largest online shoe retailer. In 2015, its revenue grows to $2 billion, and it experienced a rapid growth with 1,500 employees and 6% of annual growth rate. In 2018, its net sales reached up to $537 million. It creates a unique organizational structure. In Zappos, work is carried out by team circles, and there are special rules to maintain interaction between circles. The team circles and roles will be further discussed in the following slides. The decision-making behavior is regulated. For example, Zappos developed a Slack bot to run meetings based on Holacracy Constitution regulation. Here's a brief introduction of Zappos team circles. There are multiple levels of team circles in Zappos. The basic circles are sub-circles that consist of regular employees and supervised by super circles. 2 influential circles are general company circle, who is responsible for cash flow, and anchor circle, who make decisions on a partnership on a case-by-case basis. Upper-level circles mainly make important decisions, but a representative from sub-circles can also get involved and make a voice. There are 3 specialized roles, which are lead link, rep link, and cross link. Lead link and rep link are from sub-circles and are respectively responsible for leading the sub-circles and maintaining a relationship with super circles. Cross link exists in all circles and is responsible for collaboration between parallel circles. The connection between circles established by these special roles enables everyone's decision to be heard and considered. Decision-making in Zappos follows an iterating process. There are 2 important meetings within the iteration to promote problem-solving efficiency. The first one is the technical meeting that held weekly. In a meeting, group members gather their progress and challenges to discuss. The technical meeting aims to keep the team well informed and develop relationship between members. The second meeting is the governance meeting that's held monthly within super circles or high-level team circles to make essential decisions and process proposals. One representative from sub-circles is elected to attend the meeting to voice on behalf of sub-circles members. Zappos Holacracy brings its employee empowerment, which has increased engagement, confidence, and work flexibility. The Holacracy also brings autonomy that increases work satisfaction and work quality. However, studies suggested that Holacracy is not for everyone. Maturity theory suggests that employees must go through a few immature stages before being able to adopt holacracy. In the immature stages, employees remain dependent on others or the organization and unwilling to accept the holacracy. As a result, some employees claim that getting things done is hard, confusing, and stressful because there's no definitive answer for their work. Compared with its peers, Zappos provide a more friendly and less stressful environment. Also, its frequent interaction between sub and super circles enable useful feedback to employees and simplify their self-development process. However, compared with Amazon's strict hierarchy, argumentative environment, and well-defined roles, holacracies can cause a lack of motivation and uncertainty. Since Zappos is psychologically challenging among employees, it can modify its hiring process. For example, it can start with its hiring system to target candidates who are better at adapting a new environment. It can also magnify its mentorship program to help employees through the early stage in case of negative outcomes.
Hi, this is Julia speaking. Apple was developed in 1976 to change and develop the computer industry, and did so under the leadership of Steve Jobs. Jobs is an integral part in Apple's success, mainly due to his decision-making style. Apple incorporates some of the Magnificent Seven principles when making decisions: honesty, respect, confidentiality, and compliance. Those decisions are based according to the centralized wheel model, placing the CEO in full control of all decisions. The wheel model creates fast and accurate communication. However, due to its dictatorial approach, member satisfaction is quite low. However, poor member satisfaction does not automatically equate to poor overall performance, and Apple is a perfect example of this. Jobs had an autocratic and dictatorial leadership style, using his power at any chance he could get. Steve Jobs had access to all 5 bases of power. He was immensely coercive, constantly intimidating and criticizing employees. He rewarded individuals with his time and attention. Jobs' expert power stems from his well-known success and development within Apple. He generated referent power through interactions with his employees, making them feel grateful to be working on revolutionary products. Lastly, due to the wheel model structure, Jobs, the CEO, developed legitimate power. Steve Jobs made every critical and non-critical final decision at Apple. Decisions were made during semi-weekly meetings covering strategy, marketing, and project details in order to synergize all the decisions around his vision and maintain end-to-end control. There is a directly responsible individual for each task to ensure accountability. There was no task conflict during these discussions, as Jobs had full control on every product and decision, resulting in no group debate or consensus. Steve Jobs was a transactional leader. His expectations were so high that it created a hostile environment at Apple, each employee fearing for their job if they failed to achieve a certain goal. Working for Jobs began to not only affect the employees' mental state, but also their families. The working conditions were so intense and demanding that the spouses of these employees often created ultimatums, making them choose between their family or their job. Jobs was known for verbally abusing his employees, yet those working for him considered it a privilege. With this being said, it can be concluded that Steve Jobs had a unique decision-making style, and Apple differs from other organizations in many ways. For example, the CEO of Amazon encourages task conflict while making decisions to expend the intellect of its employees. However, Steve Jobs had full control over his discussions. Apple also differs from the company Zappos. Zappos prides itself on giving its employees autonomy and freedom, whereas the dictatorial leadership at Apple hinders its employees from doing anything outside the CEO's control. It is quite difficult to make recommendations on an organizational structure that was extremely successful and revolutionary. However, Apple had a culture of fear. The verbal abuse that many of the employees had to endure had substantial impacts on not only themselves but also their families. Instead of using fear and intimidation as a motivator for success, Apple could use intrinsic and extrinsic factors.
This is Alvin speaking again. To summarize, there are a multitude of decision-making frameworks out there. Exceptional companies around the world have built innovative structures to process and apply data in compelling ways. But the diversity between firms both within or across industries makes it nearly impossible to claim one superiority over another's, even in the long term. Insofar as organizations are still run by humans, better decision-making frameworks will continue to be developed, many of which will fail, but many of which will find success in their own respective environments. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. Here are some references for you to ignore, and we'd like to open up the floor to any questions. Thanks for listening.